Hi, and welcome to today's video on what I absolutely love, communication. And so I've been looking at the 26 competencies that make up the Institute for Social Emotional Intelligence profile. And today we are starting to look at the final 10 competencies that make up other management. And that's the fourth quadrant of the social emotional intelligence profile. And so what is communication? Effective communication. So effective communication is all about individuals being able to listen deeply and openly to others, as well as being able to send clear, credible, and convincing messages. So people communicate all the time, but are they being effective in their communication is the question. So you know that you're being effective in your communication when the other individual or others have a understanding of the message that you're sending. And so how do we communicate with one another? And this is what's so fascinating. Many people believe that communication is just about our words, what is coming out of our mouth. And that is absolutely not the case. Only 7% of our messages that we send to other people come from our words. And I know, surprising, but what is so important for people to understand is that 38% of a person's tone and cadence. So tone is all about, your emotions. Are you angry? Well, you're going to be louder. If you're potentially frustrated, you could be talking very fast and not being very clear in your message. As well as cadence. And cadence is about the pace in which we speak. And so finally, what is the largest percentage of how we communicate is all about our body language. And so body language has to do with, are we looking at each other eye to eye? Am I facing you, my body? Am I, looking around at all the other people that are potentially in our space? And it could be now with the phones. Is an individual checking their phone as somebody is trying to communicate a message to them? And so being very aware of, one, not only just the words that we say to one another, but the tone and cadence in which we use, as well as our body language, is so important. And it's also important to be aware of in regards to having the conversation with the other person. What message are they sending to you with their tone and cadence and their body language on top of the words? And so one thing that, most of us know is if you're having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they're closing their arms and they're not cold, or they're looking down at the ground, or they're becoming flushed. These are all messages that our body is sending to the receiver. And it's up to the receiver to judge what is being said by the individual's body language and adjusting how they're communicating with that person so that the communication continues to be effective. And so what is also important to understand is that the words that we say while we're communicating with somebody else is all about the content that you are providing the listener, but the delivery is the context. And the context, as we know, is so important. It really impacts how we engage with one another. And So how I really like to describe an effective communication practice is that it's power with you and the other individual or others that you're discussing or trying to communicate a message to. It's very much about co-creating and having that conversation back and forth, being able to ask questions for clarity instead of power over. Power over is all about, somebody just coming into a situation to talk to an individual or a group and just laying it out there. This is what I want you to do. No time for, questioning so that a person can further understand. And that's power over. And that is not effective conversation. What you want is power with. So you are joining together in your ability to help each other understand. And that is powerful. And so what does it mean to have a good communication competency? Well, if you are having effective conversations, you are very much involved in the give and take. So you're going to adjust to an individual's nonverbal cues, as I was talking about. If a person is closing themselves off or appear to be uncomfortable with the conversation, you may have to backtrack a little bit, give them a little bit of time to process, or you may need to ask them some questions or provide them an opportunity to take a break. And so while you're listening and sharing equally, you can deal with the difficult issues that come up during that conversation. And which is really important to keep things clear and be mindful of an other's nonverbals so that you can effectively get the message across. And that can be, again, one-on-one or with a large group. If you have a very good communication competency, you can effectively speak in front of groups and still manage to portray what it is, the message that you're trying to get through. And so what does it look like when somebody does not have a positive competency? Well, first of all, individuals fail to listen. They really feel that it's all about, communication is all about them and them talking and talking and talking. And therefore, they very often will interrupt other people as they're trying to communicate their message. And therefore, because of that lack of give and take, there is a lack of connect. The person does not, in a relationship base, doesn't connect with that other person. And they have a difficult time dealing with issues as they come up. And that is displayed in the behavior because they begin to potentially ridicule individuals. They will use threats. They will have outbursts because they're ineffective in being able to communicate how they're feeling or what their point of view is. And unfortunately, this is the pattern of behavior in communication that they have established. And so, because of that communication behavior, and they're not listening, they're very unlikely to change their opinions. And therefore, this is where we get into potentially arguments because they're not willing to listen to the other person's point of view. They have their opinion and they're sticking to it, and that's it. And so that is somebody who obviously does not have a good communication style. And so with this awareness, individuals can really start to examine, one, how they communicate with others, but how others are communicating with them. And that is so key in our day-to-day lives, whether that be personal or professional. And I could spend and have spent a week just looking at communication and practicing the different styles of engaging effectively with other in a conversation. And so I hope you find this information beneficial. And if you have any further questions or comments, please get a hold of me at 902-225-5996 or at cpick, so CPICK, @live.ca. Be well.